Hey guys, hope everybody's staying safe out there. It's a new year now, and hopefully a better year than it has been. Anyway, today we're going to be pulling the drive shaft, or drive shafts. This truck actually has two, out of the Colorado. And we're going to be putting new U-joints in, and I just figured I may as well replace all the U-joints because I had to replace the one up front on the yoke of the transmission anyway. As you'll see, it's a special universal joint. It's got bigger cups on one side and smaller cups on the other, so one side goes to the yoke and the smaller cups go to the drive shaft. So here I'm just taking the bolts out of the back. Those are 11 mil bolts that hold the back. You just take those two little clamps off and the drive shaft just pops right out. Yeah, the old universal joints, I'm pretty confident that they're original to this truck. There was no grease fittings on them. And they looked very, dry inside. They were starting to dry out, so I'm pretty sure that they were original to the truck. They'd never been changed, and I figured, you know what, I'm under there doing it anyway, so let's just put all new ones in and don't have a problem. Now this is a tool, that tool you just saw, that's the proper way to do it. This is the way I'm doing it without that tool. Hammer and a vise. I've done this for many years this way and it works. The only thing you really got to be careful of is the needles that are inside those cups. There's little bearing needles in there, and if you go smashing on this stuff too hard, those little needles can fall out and it can be a pain. There's a lot of trial and error doing it this way. That tool that I showed you, that clamp, that's a bushing, I believe it's called a bushing press, for pushing in and out bushings, and bearings also. And I didn't have one, or at least I didn't think I had one. My son later told me that there is one in the shop there somewhere. I have yet to find it, but apparently he bought one and I didn't even know. So anyway, this is a little bit harder way to do it, or the way to do it without that tool. So right now I just got that all taken apart, the old universal joint, and I'm just cleaning up any burrs, or sometimes when you're taking them out you can get little nicks in the edges of where the universal joints press back in. So I usually just take a file and clean them up a little bit, and that's all I'm doing there. And that's it. and that is that special universal joint I was telling you about that has the bigger cups on one side and the smaller cups on the other. That yoke is from the bigger, heavier transmission that came with the 6-liter engine. So you need one of these universal joints in order to put the two drive shafts together. And I'm going to try and find the part number for this universal joint. I can't remember what it is, but I will try and find it. And those are just spring clips. I didn't have the spring clips that normally come with these universal joints because I had this just sitting on the shelf in the shop, and from another project. It was a brand new U-joint that I never used, but of course I didn't have the clips that went with it. So those are just some spring clips that I had in the shop, and I'm using them in place of the ones that normally come with the universal joints, and they'll work fine. It's just something just to spring in there, to go in that little groove, just to keep that universal joint cup in place. They actually worked really well. I just squeezed them together and slid them down in place, and they just sprung into place and stayed in there fine, as you can see there. So yeah, so that's how I did. Basically, that's how I do it with the vise. One of these days I will get a press, or find that press that my son bought. I didn't even know he bought that. I had already done this, and then I talked to him about what I had done, and he said, I've got one of them sitting in the shop there somewhere, Dad. And I was like, oh great. Would have been nice to know that like a few days ago. But anyway, I'll know for next time. So I don't know if you noticed or not there, that nut that I'm using, once I get the cups pushed in flush with the edge of the yoke, I use that nut and I put that between the vise and the end of on the cup, just to push the cup in past that little ridge where your spring clip goes. That's the only reason I have that nut there. And it works good. It just, I usually give it a couple turns. Sometimes I have to hit it like I am there with the hammer. That just gives it a little tap in, a little extra oomph to tap the cup into place. But usually works pretty good. I usually don't have too much trouble with it. And that's just an old socket there that I'm using. That's an old, I think it was a spark plug socket that I found in my other toolbox. and I that's just something I can destroy basically, and I hold on to that and use that to pound the cups in too sometimes. Works pretty good. So, but there you have it. That is all done, and the rest of them, the other two, are basically the same idea. Same idea as that, getting them out, the old ones, and putting the new ones in. I will say this is a two-piece drive shaft, and you will want to split them apart. It just makes it so much easier to work with. Yeah, definitely split them apart. And when you're installing them, install them one at a time. Don't try and put them back in both together. Just won't work very well. So here I am. I'm putting the front drive shaft in place now, and the steady bearing, that's that piece right there. That's what sits on that cross member. It's basically just a bearing that goes between the two drive shafts. Those bolts I'm putting in right now, those are 15 mil bolts to hold your steady bearing on. Don't put them in right away until you get the back part of the drive shaft on. I put them in now, and later on when I put the back drive shaft in, I end up having to take them back out, because you just can't get the back drive shaft into place properly when that steady bearing is bolted down. So I would have just set that up in place, left it there, and then put the back one on like you see me doing here. I put the back on first. This is back by the back axle, and basically just tap that in and bolt it all down. And again, these are 11 mil bolts that go on the back, and just install those little cups, or I guess they're not cups, they're more like straps, I guess. Yeah, they're straps that go over top of the cups. But yeah, those are 11 mil. Just give them a little torque with the impact. Get them somewhat tight. And that's it. That's it for the back. And the universal joint up by the steady bearing, it bolts up the same way as this back one. The only difference is the one up there uses 8 mil bolts instead of 11. But it bolts up the same way. There's a couple little straps that go over top of the cups the same way, and yeah, they just bolt on. And this is where I took those 15 mil bolts out, because they were it just wasn't going together, and I thought, nope, this isn't going to work. Anyway, I hope everybody's staying safe out there. Thanks a lot for watching the videos. Thanks a lot for following along in this build. The next few things, I got a little bit more work to do underneath here. I got to hook up the fuel lines to the fuel pump, and I got to hook up the transmission shift linkage cable. Anyway, there's a few other things I'm going to do underneath here, but pretty soon, very soon, we're going to be getting into the wiring. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are very interested in how to wire one of these up. So I'm hoping to go into some really good detail on the wiring, because there's not a whole lot out there on YouTube about wiring up these LS engines. So, and I am hoping, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, but I'm hoping to get all my factory gauges working. But we'll see. I know it can be done. Whether or not I can do it, I don't know, but I'm going to give it a shot. So anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Everybody, please stay safe out there.